JoinAtRadio.com. Here's the number. Call me 615-554-0568. We are here to assist you in building your brand.
Hi, I'm attorney Theodore Thompson from the Thompson Law Firm, and I want to help you with your legal matters. Whether it's criminal defense, bankruptcy, personal injury, or family law.
Did Dave do a good job editing that promo this morning? I hadn't heard it yet. What did he do? Took out what?
You took out all your breath.
No.
You took out your thank you at the
Our
end.
address is 415 Suite
He
7.
just took it from like 39 seconds to back to 30.
Did he put my theme song in there?
Yeah, I think he did.
If he didn't, he got some more work to do. That ought to be playing in the background.
Who's a professional in this room?
Look, you, Dave, you're the only professional in the room right now, I think.
Your promo will be ready when you get back next week. Oh, I need you. Do you do any work outside of Arkansas?
All the bordering states.
I might need to have you to do a background check on somebody for me. I'll call you and let you know the details.
At Mitchell Funeral Home, they understand that the funeral is a celebration of life and legacy, so the entire staff takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional services they provide. Cremations, funeral planning, burial policy, life insurance, notary.
Hey, what's up? Well, if it isn't Doris Davis. Hello, Doris.
Packages are available as well. Mitchell Funeral Home appreciates the trust and confidence placed in them and will continue to enhance their services so as to serve you better. Call now. Get connected. 870-246.
Show us start in just a few minutes. Y'all hang tight.
870-246-2611. Call, click, or come by. MitchellFuneralServices.com. Don't wait till we're needed. Call us now. Let's walk through this together. 870-246-2611. It's quality you can appreciate and service you can depend on at Mitchell Funeral Home.
The views and opinions expressed today on Black Focus Radio are not the views and opinions of the station, its management, or its advertisers. Now, let's get ready to focus on our issues, our solutions, using our voices on Black Focus Radio.
Don't go to CC's Chicken and Waffles unless you want to wait for 2 hours.
Where we focus on our issues, developing our solutions, using our resources. Central Arkansas.
No, she's got a new place on Colonel Glenn. She's down there. She's on Colonel Glenn now.
So here's your host.
It's good to see you on this.
All right, take care.
Appreciate y'all being here too.
All right, Dave.
All right, what's happening? Welcome to the show. It's Black Focus Radio. Our issues, our solutions, our voices. The Thursday edition. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you want to call the show, take it easy, man. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Of course, you know we got to do Black Facts. We're certainly going to talk about the reparations hearing yesterday. In fact, I'm going to tell you right now, you need to go ahead and download the Join That Radio app because we're going to play some audio. We're first going to play some audio from Ta-Nehisi Coates as he slaps the pudding out of Mitch McConnell. Couldn't have done it that good myself. Well, I guess I could have, but I probably would have hit him. And then we're going to play Charles Blow in an interview that he had on CNN. Both of those about 5 minutes. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to go ahead and download the app. Go to joinnetradio.com. Look right on the main page. Your prospective app store is there, whether it's iPhone or Google. Go ahead and get that downloaded because you're going to want to hear these. Because I'm going to be honest with you, this is going to be the Black Facts for today about reparations. So go ahead and get that in if you can. Hey, Julia, how you doing? Michelle, what's up? How you doing? Michelle, we need to talk about Labor Day weekend. Hurry up and get that information to us. I'm kind of like planning a vacation on air. Yeah, I am. Another camping trip. Y'all know we do that a lot. What else? Oh, let me pull up the teas so I can just go ahead and tell you some of the other things that I want to talk about today. And it's quite a few things. We're going to give you 25. Oh, here it is right here on top. Today on Black Focus Radio, We'll play excerpts from the reparations hearing, and Turtle Man is Mitch McConnell. He's a piece of crap, folks. I'm gonna tell you, and I'm being kind. Also, if you're in the Biden camp, run and get away from him as quick as you can, okay? Because anytime a white man, and I don't care that he's 76 years old or however age he is, says he's cool with cohort with segregationists, oh, those are good old boys, because that's basically what he said, then he doesn't need to be your president. He's proven now over and over again that he doesn't, and I don't want to hear this mess about how he's just an old guy. I don't care about that. He doesn't need to be your president. Okay? And also I said I'm going to give you 25 ways you can be killed if you're black in America. I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about tipping one more time. We've had these conversations before, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more today. And we might just go ahead and get that out of the way early on. But we're going to talk about tipping because black people, if you're going out to eat and you can't afford to tip, then you shouldn't be going out to eat. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm not trying to be snooty. And 15% is the norm. Anything below that, you're below the norm. Now, on the other hand, a restaurant cannot make you pay a gratuity. That 15% is a gratuity. So if in fact you get bad service, then you don't have to pay 15%. And no restaurant can kick you out. Well, they can kick you out, but they can't make you pay 15%. I don't care how they hoot and holler. All right? I think I just talked about that. But we'll talk about it a little bit more. All right? 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with me. If you want to join the show, I know there are a lot of new people joining the show from all over the country. I really appreciate it. What I'd love for you all to do for me right now is start a watch party. Go out to that, wherever you picked up the feed on the wall, just click on your page and click Start Watch Party. Okay? And what that'll do is all of your friends that are in other parts of the country who may not be hip to Black Focus Radio, then they'll see it on your wall and then they'll start paying attention. Also, I'm about to post the YouTube link, and I want to make sure that you all click on that and subscribe. I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers. I got a long way to go. So, and to show you I must be being effective, because the other day I had a white supremacist on my YouTube feed. Y'all know I had to dog him, right? But I dogged him nicely, if there's such a thing. Yeah, so make sure you do that as well. Will y'all do that for me? So let me go ahead and post that link right now and get that out of the way. I'm going to post it. Let's see here. Let's see. Don't want to post it there. Don't want to post it there. We got to leave that. Okay, so we're going to have to start another wall here. Just a moment. Let me do it right quick. And I'm going to post this on my wall. And you all should see this here in a moment. All right, so the watch party is already out there, okay? So you can look at the watch party. But I'm posting the YouTube link now, if I can post it. All right. See, this is what my interns are going to be doing here in the future. We've got interns in the studio, Jemiah and Clayton. Did I remember? Did I say it right? Okay. And they are in the studio with me. I'm teaching them radio 101. They're getting it. You know, the funny thing about it, when I started radio, I was mistakenly, a lot of people think that I spun records. I've never spun records, okay? I'm a talk show host. There's a difference. So if you call me a DJ, I'm liable to slap you. No, I won't slap you, but it's kind of an insult. So they're getting immersed into talk radio, because we don't spin many records or anything like that here, okay? So just to let you know that. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Like I said, our Black Facts today are going to be from Charles Blow and Ta-Nehisi Coates. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into it, and I'm gonna give you a little more. I'm gonna give you a little background information, follow-up information once we finish.
Dynamic artifacts, our culture, our history, our people.
All right. So as you know, yesterday in Washington D.C., there was a hearing on reparations, and of course, it was packed. It was fiery. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to look at it simply because I was here doing the show. But I promised you all that I would go home and look at it once, at the end of the show, which I didn't watch the entire, I think it was like almost 3 hours. But I did pull some excerpts out of it, which I thought were fantastic. So the best one that I pulled out of was Ta-Nehisi Coates. And believe it or not, the reason that we're having this conversation again is because it was Ta-Nehisi Coates' article a while back, and I don't think that's the one I'm looking for. It was his article a while back that it was called "The Case for Reparations." I believe it was published in the New York Times. It was his article that really woke people up. Okay? So I listened to that yesterday, and I'm going to have to find it. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and listen to Charles Blow, and then we'll end with Ta-Nehisi Coates and his conversation about Mitch McConnell, because I think you're going to like this, okay? Because at this point, as I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, there is no argument against reparations unless you're a racist. Here's Charles Blow. Sorry about that. My bad. I closed the wrong window. So let's try this again. Okay. And we'll get this started here in just a moment. Actually, I clicked on the wrong window, so I apologize for closing that. So here we go. Let's try this again.
Progress considered that has whether or not we're able to fair the same. Whether or not we're going to deal with how those actually done. There's millions of people, black people, died either enslaved or because they were enslaved, killed. Right? We were a slave country for 100 years longer than we have now been a country free of slaves. This is not a thing that happened 150 years ago. This is a thing that happened for 250 years in America. Right? And there's death, there's torture, there's terror. There's also 250 years of millions of people giving labor for which they were never compensated. It made America a rich country, and it made people in America very rich. And even if you're descended from somebody who was not a slave owner, the whole society benefited. If I was rich, I could build a school. I could build a hospital. I could donate to local cultural institutions and events. It made the society rich, and everybody, other than the slaves, benefited from the institution of slavery. It has nothing to do with Barack Obama. This has nothing to do. Even he said, the Civil War. Yeah, half the country fought to keep slavery, and if they had won, we'd still have it, presumably. He says the civil rights movement. Well, half the people in this country did not want that to happen, particularly in the South. People died to get that. I don't understand this ration. I mean, I think it's just, this is, kind of a self-delusion or something, or being intentionally obtuse.
Sarah, can I get your take on that?
Well, I think being critical of Mitch McConnell for simply recognizing that America has made some.
So I don't want to hear Rick Santorum. So that was Charles Blow. Rick Santorum is from South Carolina, and he's what I consider a racist. I don't want to hear him. So let's listen to Ta-Nehisi Coates and what he said yesterday. Because a white supremacist trying to justify racism falls on my deaf ears.
When asked about reparations, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell offered a familiar reply. America should not be held liable for something that happened 150 years ago, since none of us currently alive are responsible. This rebuttal proffers a strange theory of governance, that American accounts are somehow bound by the lifetime of its generations. But well into this century, the United States was still paying out pensions to the heirs of Civil War soldiers. We honor treaties that date back some 200 years, despite no one being alive who signed those treaties. Many of us would love to be taxed for the things we are solely and individually responsible for. But we are American citizens, and thus bound to a collective enterprise that extends beyond our individual and personal reach. It would seem ridiculous to dispute invocations of the founders of the greatest generation on the basis of a lack of membership in the group. We recognize our lineage as a generational trust, as inheritance. And the real dilemma posed by reparations is just that, a dilemma of inheritance. It is impossible to imagine America without the inheritance of slavery. As historian Ed Baptist has written, enslavement, quote, shaped every crucial aspect of the economy and politics of America, so that by 1836, more than 600 million, almost half of the economic activity in the United States derived directly or indirectly from the cotton produced by the million-odd slaves. By the time the enslaved were emancipated, they comprised the largest single asset in America. $3 billion in $1860, more than all the other assets in the country combined. The method of cultivating this asset was neither gentle cajoling nor persuasion, but torture, rape, and child trafficking. Enslavement reigned for 250 years on these shores. When it ended, this country could have extended its hallowed principles, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness to all regardless of color. But America had other principles in mind. And so for a century after the Civil War, black people were subjected to a relentless campaign of terror, a campaign that extended well into the lifetime of Majority Leader McConnell. It is tempting to divorce this modern campaign of terror, of plunder, from enslavement. But the logic of enslavement, of white supremacy, respects no such borders. And the god of bondage was lustful and begat many heirs. Coup d'etats and convict leasing, vagrancy laws and debt peonage, redlining and racist GI bills, poll taxes and state-sponsored terrorism. We grant that Mr. McConnell was not alive for Appomattox, but he was alive for the electrocution of George Skinner. He was alive for the blinding of Isaac Goodman. He was alive to witness kleptocracy in his native Alabama and a regime premised on electoral theft. Majority Leader McConnell cited civil rights legislation yesterday, as well he should, because he was alive to witness the harassment, jailing, and betrayal of those responsible for that legislation by governments sworn to protect them. He was alive for the redlining of Chicago and the looting of black homeowners of some $4 billion. Victims of that plunder are very much alive today. I am sure they'd love a word with the Majority Leader. What they know, what this committee must know, is that while emancipation dead-bolted the door against the bandits of America, Jim Crow wedged the windows wide open. And that is the thing about Senator McConnell's something. It was 150 years ago, and it was right now. The typical black family in this country has 1/10 the wealth of the typical white family. Black women die in childbirth at 4 times the rate of white women. And there is, of course, the shame of this land of the free, boasting the largest prison population on the planet, of which the descendants of the enslaved make up the largest share. The matter of reparations is one of making amends and direct redress, but it is also a question of citizenship. In H.R. 40, this body has a chance to both make good on its 2009 apology for enslavement and reject fair weather patriotism, to say that a nation is both its credits and its debits, that if Thomas Jefferson matters, so does Sally Hemings, that if D-Day matters, so does Black Wall Street, that if Valley Forge matters, so does Fort Pillow. Because the question really is not whether we will be tied to the somethings of our past, but whether we are courageous enough to be tied to the whole of them.
Now, that was Ta-Nehisi Coates' opening statement in the reparations hearing. Please go out and listen to as much of it as you can. It was a powerful opening statement. And the irony is, and I'm sitting here, if you go to my wall, I'm sitting here right now looking at a picture of Mitch McConnell, who's standing in front of a Confederate flag accepting an award from the Sons of Confederate Veterans. So anything Mitch McConnell would have to say relating to reparations as a negative, well, we expect it to be, because if Mitch McConnell and his ilk had its way, black people would still be slaves. You know, black people, McConnell had the nerves to say that, hey, well, black people don't deserve reparations because Barack Obama was the elected president. Now, I've heard some ignorant stuff in my life, but every day that I live, it seems to me that these white supremacists get dumber and say the most ignorant stuff that you could imagine. It's amazing that he would even fix his mouth to say that. It's amazing that his mind would even formulate a thought for his mouth to be fixed for him to say that. Because it was Mitch McConnell who vowed the day after inauguration of President Obama that he was going to do everything in his power to oppose him. Even up to the point where he violated law, tradition of the Senate, and didn't even seat president's nominations for the Supreme Court. He did everything he could to run against Barack Obama. So don't sit here with your justification, white boy, and try to pretend like you care about me, because it's becoming more and more obvious that you are a problem. And at some point, I am hoping and praying that the people of Kentucky makes it known. And even if they don't, I'm hoping that people around the country will vote with their minds and their conscience and say, we've had enough of Republican BS. We've had enough of trickle-down economics. We've had enough of Republican undercover racism. But you know, it's not even undercover anymore. It's overt. It's out in the open. This party is the party of racists. Period. End of story. If you are white out there and you disagree, then why are you voting Republican? Why? You would rather kowtow with this is what a lot of people did with Hitler, They said nothing while Hitler burned Jews and gassed Jews. And then they said, oh, well, we didn't really want him to do that. What's going on here? This is a problem. We all should be concerned. But the point of this segment is to remind you why reparations are important. Let me give you a few more facts. And really, the only document that matters is what I'm about to present to you. Because Ta-Nehisi Coates was eloquent, and many of the others. And we're going to talk about the Harvard boy, the black kid that's in a dark place, who's 23 years old, who has no concept of what people did for him, yet he's arguing against reparations. That's called being sick. So let me give you the history of reparations payments in America. Okay? In 1990, the United States paid Japanese Americans $1.6 billion. That was $20,000 each person. Also in 1990, Austria, they paid $25 million to Holocaust survivors. Jews' claims on Austria. In 1988, Canada, 250,000 square miles of land was repatriated to Native North Americans and Eskimos. In 1988, Canada, $230 million to Japanese Canadians. In 1986, the U.S. paid $32 million based on a 1839 treaty to the Ottawas of Michigan. In 85, they paid $31 million to the Chippewas of Wisconsin. In 85, they paid $12.3 million to the Seminoles of Florida. In 85, they paid $105 million to the Sioux of South Dakota. In 1980, they paid $81 million to the Klamaths of Oregon. In 1971, the U.S. paid $1 billion plus 44 million acres of land to Alaska Native Land Settlement. In 1952, Germany paid $822 million to Holocaust victims, Jewish and the Jewish settlement. But from 1865 to the present, through the Jim Crow era, Africans, African Americans, and black descendants have received that much money. That's zero. So again, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to continue to say it, that your argument against reparations is a fool's argument. See, you might have a point if there was no precedence. I just gave you, let's see, that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 instances of where the United States has paid reparations for crimes that they committed against other people. The crimes that they committed against black people were the worst of any race of people. Free labor. You heard Ta-Nehisi Coates talk about the fact that it's important that the United States is rich and wealthy today because of that free labor. And when white people try to say, well, my folks didn't own any slaves, well, guess what? You benefited from that free labor. Because your folks may not have owned slaves, but you probably got a darn good loan at the bank because you're white. In fact, your interest points on your loan is probably 3, 4, 5 to 10 points smaller than it is for a black person on the same type loan. You probably got that business, although you didn't have a good business plan, because you're a white person. That black person who has labored and toiled and went to business school and written a top-notch business plan, he didn't get that same loan. We know for a fact that banks have foreclosed on black people and come to find out that they were cheating them. We know for a fact that black people pay more money in insurance than white people. We know that, and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, we know that banks and cities purposely devalue properties of black people in their communities. They purposely devalue it. So in other words, your property might be worth $500,000, but the bank will devalue it to $250,000. And then when you move out, they end up selling it at a profit. We know that goes on every day. It continues to go on. So when you say, well, I didn't profit from slavery, yes, you did. In fact, you profit from slavery every day. You profit from the degradation of black people every day. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your lame argument that you didn't do anything, so why punish me? It's not a punishment. This is not a punishment to white folks. If you take it as a punishment, then maybe you're feeling guilty about something. What reparations are is an atonement for a maldeed that you did against a group of people that is long overdue. Long overdue. We see it continue to play out every day in our streets where black cops are killing white cops. You know, I posted on my wall just today. You all remember the sheriff up near Fort Smith who got into the fight with a suspect? He and his deputy both were fighting the suspect. Somehow or another, the suspect was able to get away from them. He jumps into their vehicle and drives off in the cop's vehicle. Go out and look at that video. In fact, let my intern see this video. Watch this. Come over here, Clayton. Look at this. You don't need sound. All you need is to watch it. It's on my wall. He's fighting two deputies, a male and a female. They have him pinned to the ground. Somehow or another, this guy is able to get up and get in their vehicle and drive off. Now I'm not gonna say it right now, but I'm gonna say I've got two young people, both 17 here. Oh, he whacks the police. Okay? So he assaults the police. Okay? Now, I'm not gonna say anything, but I'm gonna ask them what's peculiar about this video. By now, they probably already know. Okay? Hang on a minute. So he's in their vehicle now. Look, it's two of them. He starts up his vehicle, the police vehicle, backs out into the street and drives off, and the police officer attempts to try to run behind the vehicle. Now, what's the problem with that video? They'd have killed him if he was black. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. By the way, y'all know that happened in Arkansas. Okay? So my point being is that this guy beat up police, beat them with their own baton, stole the vehicle, drive off. Not one time did they even draw a taser. Not one time did they even draw the taser. Not one time did they even draw a pistol. And when he's driving off, most cops say, well, I was in fear of my life. I thought he was going to run over me. The police officer gets out of the way, and the guy drives off, and not one time did he draw his weapon and shoot at that vehicle. Not one time. That's why we deserve reparations. We demand reparations. 855-525-5683 is the number, and that's our Black Fact for today.
Keep listening to Black Focus Radio for more dynamic Black facts, our culture, our history, our people on joynetradio.com.
So the irony of this, and the reason I asked my interns, because I knew their age, but if 17-year-old young people know certain things that black people will do will get them killed by police, think about that. Think about how damaging that is to this society. That we have a group of people growing up already knowing that, hey, black police officers not going to treat me fair. They'll kill us. So, speaking of which, since I'm talking about police officers killing us, then I guess I gotta give you the 25 reasons you could be killed if you're black. Having your car break down, holding a BB gun, riding in your girlfriend's car, selling a CD outside a supermarket, selling cigarettes on the corner, walking home with a friend, missing a front license plate, wearing a hoodie, riding a commuter train, holding a fake gun in the park in Ohio, holding a fake gun in Walmart, holding a fake gun in Virginia, calling for help after a car accident, driving with a broken light, attending Bible class, failing to signal a lane change, walking away from police, walking towards police, running to the bathroom in your own apartment, walking up the stairwell in your apartment building, sitting in your car before a bachelor party, holding your wallet, making eye contact, attending a birthday party, laughing. That went fast, didn't it? That's 25 ways you can be killed if you were black. Some of them are preposterous, aren't they? Some of them are ridiculous, aren't they? Yeah, they are. But white people can beat up police, shoot at police. Remember the story I told you about the guy who had the hatchet and walked towards police and he buried the hatchet in one of the cops' chest and not one of them fired a shot? They got their man. Black man walking away and he gets shot. Black man, look, we didn't even say the black man sleeping in the car at the drive-thru. They only shot his car up, only shot him 55 times. Y'all remember the couple that was driving down the street, I believe in Pennsylvania a couple of months ago? They were singing love songs to one another. Police jumped them, tell them that they look like a car. See, this is their old ploy. You look like someone who just robbed a bank. They shot up the car, ends up shooting the young lady in the face. She lived. But by the way, they weren't the bank robbers. And the irony to all of this is none of these people, very few of these cops have went to jail. Just this morning, news broke that 72 officers have now been put on desk duty in Philadelphia. You know, I would like to be able to come into my show sometime and I talk about police misconduct. But it's important for us to understand that we've given this organization some type of status that gives them the right to kill and maim with impunity as if they are Jesus the Christ. They suffer no consequences. So we have to continue to talk about police misconduct to expose the lie. Because police right now in America are living a lie on the backs of taxpayers. A friend of mine told me the other, I mean, look, all the perks that they have, said they went to Chick-fil-A and there were 6 police cars sitting up there. I remember going to a Chick-fil-A in North Little Rock and a policeman was there. We were waiting in line. He had already gotten his drink or whatever he was drinking. Instead of asking the clerk to say, can you give me a refill, which they will gladly do, he just walks behind the counter and fills up his cup with lemonade. Hey, I run this joint here. We've given them some sort of business here, some sort of status that is causing people to die. And I don't understand why we've done this. It makes no sense whatsoever. I'm tired of hearing police have tough jobs. I know they do. But you know what? I couldn't be a police officer, so that's why I would never be one. I've had some tough jobs in my lifetime. That's why I didn't keep that job. So any job that you get that's too tough on you, then maybe you ought to quit that job. You shouldn't keep working on that job and it's causing you psychological impairment that it then manifests itself in the people that you're serving, mainly black people. But I was talking about the thing in Philadelphia. 72 officers. We've talked about the one in Phoenix where she has put officers on desk duty. 72 officers have been found in research to have posted racist, anti-black, anti-LGBTQ, or anti-Semitic type things on social media. These guys should not be police officers, folks. If I believe that you're no good, then guess what happens? If I encounter you, then I'm going to treat you as I believe you are. Does that make sense? It's kind of like how some of you all treat homeless people. Think about how you treat homeless people. I know how I treat them. I treat them with the utmost respect. Remember, I told you that I was giving away some stuff, and I called the young brother a king, and it made him kind of stand up straight. And he told me, hey, look, no one has ever called me that. He appreciated me. The other day, I had some food that I wanted to give away. Guy walking down the street, I pull over and say, hey, man, you want a sandwich? I'm not saying this to brag on myself. I'm simply saying I treat them with respect. But I read a story the other day, and I'm trying to remember where it was in this city, where this city paid $1 million to bring boulders into the city where homeless people were sleeping and camping out. So they paid $1 million to bring these boulders into the city so that they could put it in the spot where the homeless people were, so the homeless people wouldn't sleep there anymore. Now, wouldn't it have been more feasible to take that $1 million and maybe open a homeless shelter? Remember, treat you like they treat homeless people. 855-525-5683 is the number. That's how you get in touch with us if you want to talk. We got to do better. We've got to start understanding where our bread is buttered. That's why you hear me talk often about supporting black businesses. If you don't support black businesses, you are contributing to your demise. It's kind of like the guy the black guy from Harvard that was arguing that, hey, look at me, I made it. Kind of like what Ben Carson says. If I can get out of the ghetto, anybody can get out of the ghetto. No, they can't. No, they can't. Let me flip that argument for you. And I'm just going to flip it on myself. Okay? If we use that same logic, let's see here, I'm trying to think. Let's use Keith Jackson as an example. You all know Keith Jackson, right? Played for Little Rock Parkview. Played for Parkview. Tight end. Went on to play for the Philadelphia Eagles, right? Played for Oklahoma. Then went ahead and played for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, what if Keith Jackson says, if we use that same argument, if I can get out of the ghetto, anybody can get out of the ghetto, okay? So let's say Keith Jackson says, and he's not saying this, I'm just using him as an example. If I can get out of the projects, anybody can get out of the projects. If I can make it to become a pro, anybody can become a pro. No. Because you have to have certain measurables, number one. So little old me, who was 180 pounds in high school, I went to a smaller college. I didn't get to go to big time Oklahoma. If we use that logic, then I should have been able to go to Oklahoma. In fact, I should have. As a matter of fact, I should have been able. I wanted to go pro, but I was not able to. I ended up breaking my neck. So you see how ridiculous that argument sounds, that if I can, you can. No. Look, it's kind of like this. Why is it that some people can smoke cigarettes all their lives and never get cancer, and people who have never smoked get cancer? See how ridiculous that argument sounds now that you start ferreting it out? If I can, you can. No, there are different environments. You don't know what's going on in house down the corner, whereas that your mom may have made you, she might have been a single parent, and she made you come home and study your work, read every day. Maybe the parent down the block wasn't able to do that because she had to work 3 jobs. Or maybe her boyfriend was beating her up. So when you use the argument that just because I can do it, you ought to be able to do it, that is a a specious argument. It holds no water. So when the Columbia boy yesterday, when I started listening to him, I turned him off. I just didn't want to hear that crap. Because at the end of the day, he's got his little Harvard thing going on. But let him drive through the hood. Let him drive through the hood and be accosted by one of these racist cops. It's not going to matter that you speak well. I know it's not, because I speak well. I've been accosted by cops and disrespected. It's not going to matter that you have an MBA from Harvard. They're not going to give a damn. In fact, they're probably going to look at you cross-eyed and call you one of them smart niggas. We need to bring you down a peg. Hello? So when those people start making those ridiculous arguments, you know what? I don't even entertain them anymore. I turn them off. You may not want reparations, but I guarantee you, those of you out there today who are saying, well, I don't need no reparations, I can do my own thing. Well, guess what? If they cut a check tomorrow, you're going to have your damn hands out. Wait a minute, Bob. Didn't you say you didn't want reparations? Yeah, man, but, since they going to give them out, I might as well go and take it. No. So let me ask you this. Since you don't think you need reparations, if they said, okay, everybody who wants reparations, sign this form right here. You gonna fill out the form, Bob? You gonna fill it out? You damn right you are, because you're a hypocrite. You're a liar to yourself. You've been brainwashed to think that by some miraculous invention that you were fortunate to get out of the projects or wherever you came from. In fact, that's the fact, is you were fortunate. But everyone that came through your projects was not afforded the same things, the same books. What impacts most people in their lifetime more than anything are people you know. Now, one of the things I always tell people in my Teenage Survival Kit, I have a set of keys in there, okay? And those keys represent opening doors. So when you put a key in a lock, you turn it, it opens, it unlocks. And you open a door and you go through that door. See, in life, there are some keys that you can use to open doors. And the majority of the keys that you have are people that you know. One of the things that I've been telling these interns is pay attention, learn people, talk to people, be able to sell yourself to people, because those are the people that will open doors for you. So, Lil Johnny in Project A may be afforded certain mentors and certain keys that open doors for him, but Lil Johnny in Project B may not be. So Lil Johnny is left in Project B to fend for himself, to fight off the gang members. Well, Lil Johnny in Project A is able to have Mr. Whiteman Mental come pick him up, take him to various places. I'm using that as an example because that's what happened to me. You see, I grew up a block and a half from the projects. The majority of my friends were in the projects. But while I was 8, 9, and 10 years old and was traveling all over this country, many of my friends were stuck at home. They were not privy to the milieu and the stimulation that I received for my brain, because their moms couldn't afford it. So I remember some of my friends, because they would always ask me, because they knew I was going places every summer, DC, where you going this summer? Wish I could go. I remember them distinctly saying that. I remember telling them that, well, I go somewhere all the time because I read. So I'll tell people, hey, I went to France this past summer. Really? Yeah, I went in a book. They weren't privy to that stimulation that I was privy. And they lived just 2 blocks up the road. Hello. So I could easily say, because I became a successful radio talk show host, I've spent 35 years in the radio business, you ought to be able to do it too. If everybody could do it, then everybody would be a professional basketball player or professional football player or the president of the United States. The stimuli that you receive as a young person determines where you go. That old saying, garbage in, garbage out. It is important to surround yourself with mentors. So this young man who got this Harvard degree, apparently somebody saw something good in him. Just like the successes that I've had, somebody saw something good in me. Someone said, hey, that Dave Coleman, he likes to run his mouth, but that's a good kid. I remember when I first told people that I was in talk radio, someone said, you're in the right business. In fact, my senior teacher, my English teacher, Mrs. Dusenberry, in my senior book, she wrote, garrulous David. The word garrulous means talkative. I've always been a talker. Okay? But she wrote garrulous David. And at the time, so here's how ironic that is. Because see, I was the only black male in her advanced English class. Let me say that again. I was the only black male in that advanced English class and could outwrite just about everybody in the class. Guess what I do for one of the things I do for a living now? I write. Guess what I do for a living? One of the things I do for a living now. I talk. Garrulous David. I had friends who grew up in the same neighborhood that I did. They're not talk show hosts. They're not writers. They're not published authors. So the argument to say that if I can do it, you can do it, that's a fallacy. And when I hear of black people who have become successful say those things to black people who are on the come up, see, part of the problem is instead of us looking down and saying, yo, dog, I can do it, you can do it. What you ought to be saying is, hey, look, I was able to do it. Now let me show you how to do it. That's what we ought to be doing. We ought to be saying, hey, look, that's part of the reason these interns are in here. They came in and asked me, what you want to do for a living? Neither one of them want to be in radio. But you know what I'm doing? I'm showing them how to do it. So you never know. I might get a call and I'm old and decrepit. It's, hi, Mr. Coleman, this is Jemiah. Don't you remember me? No, I'm old. She's laughing. I'm showing them how to do it. I'm showing them everything. Over this next 6 weeks, I'm going to be sitting in another location. One of those every day is going to run this board. You're going to produce this show. So that's why I'm teaching you all this. It'll be you one day, and then it'll be Clayton the other day. Okay? So I'm giving them everything I can inside of me. I could come in here, when JC said we're going to have interns, I could have said, who's going to teach them? I ain't got time. I won't be dealing with no knucklehead kids. But I've told you all over and over again, that's how you live forever. That's how you live forever. Because see, here's the irony behind this. Jemiah and Clayton are going to learn a lot of stuff during this 6 weeks. They're going to learn a lot of stuff about radio. They're going to learn a lot of stuff about themselves. And they're going to learn a lot of stuff about me. But more importantly, they're going to learn a lot of stuff about black people. And you know what's going to happen? Let me ask you a question, y'all a question. Did y'all go home at any day this week and say or repeat anything that was said on this show? Clayton did. Did you, Jemai? Okay. So here's my point. Is the fact that you're repeating what I say, that means you're learning what I say. So you told your mom. Okay? So you're learning what I say. So here's the irony behind this. They went and told somebody else. That somebody else may not have known. That somebody else just learned something as well. Remember I told you all that I'm going to live forever? I'm going to live forever. Y'all know how? Y'all look at me crazy. Is he a ghost? Is he a spirit? Am I Lucifer? No, I'm going to live forever. And here's how. Because we have to teach young people our values. You see, so here's what I do. The knowledge that I'm dropping on you all and people on this airways, but mainly young people, when I go out and do my teenage survival kit, somewhere down the line, something's going to stick. You may not get it all, but something's going to stick. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to pass it on. Okay? And as you grow and develop, that young person that you pass it on to, guess what they're going to do? They're going to pass it on. And before you know it, that where that knowledge came from, nobody may never know, but Clayton started it. He got it from Mr. Coleman, and it's now 10, 12, 15 years down the road. I'm still living, and I could be dead at that time. Y'all get that, right? So this is why I tell people. This is why I reach back. So when I hear people like that guy, young guy, I believe he was 23 years old, make those outlandish statements that because he was able to do it, and I hear other people, because I had to toil and struggle, well, you shouldn't have had to go through that. Part of the reason you had to struggle so hard was because you were black. You did not get reparations the way you should have. Your ancestors were not treated equally when the Emancipation Proclamation was issued. So you had to fight, you had to scrap, you had to scrape, you had to struggle. That doesn't mean that your grandchildren have to. That doesn't mean that your grandchildren have to. So reparations are in order. Man, that's the first hour. That thing went fast. Man. Hope y'all enjoyed that. I did. I get a tingle every time I talk to y'all, man. Y'all just make me feel so good. Now, I hope you'll spread the word about Black Focus Radio. I also want to remind you it is Buy Black Week. If you want a gift box, we are still selling Coleman's Dynamic Gift Boxes. Pick 6, pick 10s. Pick 6 items from my product line, and guess what? I'll give them to you. No, I won't. Trick you. $29.95 for 6, $39.95 for 10. You can only get that item by calling me at 615-554-0568. Hey, it's not on the website, but part of the reason I want you to call me is because I want to talk to you. I want to say thank you. I want to show you what customer service is all about. We'll be back in a moment. We got to take a top of the hour break. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. I'm Dynamic Dave on joinnetradio.com.
The law offices of James F. Swindoll.
And do me a favor and turn that fan this way. I don't know why it's blowing over there. It ain't doing me no good. Is it doing you any good? You hot? No, that's a bit warmer than me. You can pull it as close over here as you can, too.
If you or a loved one have been injured or have property wrongfully damaged, we may be able to help.
Oh, that's so much better.
To contact our firm anytime for a free consultation.
So,
call 1-800-848.
One of the things that you're gonna need to learn, I'm gonna have you all doing the board. Because theoretically, because I've been in radio business so long, it's hard doing the board and talking. Okay? Don't everybody can't do that. But what I learned in the business first, what I learned first was production. The talk came later. Now, when you sit behind this desk, the most important thing you can do is make sure everything is going out on the air properly. Okay? So sometimes people will want to ask you for your opinion. You're not here to give your opinion. You're here to make sure that everything goes out on the air the way it's supposed to. Okay? All right? So it's important for you to watch what I do. And then next week we'll get into some of the basic commands. Okay? Because this is a different piece of software. We've only had this for about 2 months. So I'm learning a lot of it too.
Does this computer count as the board too?
No. This is just the board right here. Okay? But every radio station has software that runs their station. Okay? Especially the ones that don't have DJs 24/7. They have to have automation to play their music when they're not there. Okay? So basically all of this stuff, this music is pulled from a database. It's on a hard drive. So we got thousands of songs on a hard drive. Then we have thousands of shows or shows that have been recorded that's on a hard drive. Okay? So all of our stuff will come from that particular hard drive. All right? So again, we just have to know where to find it. Okay? And once you figure out where stuff is, that's why I showed you the board first. Mic 1, 2, 3. Skip 4 and mic 5. This is a telephone for this computer. 4 is for this computer. Okay? And we don't do anything on this computer as far as production work. Notice I don't pull up websites on this computer. I don't do anything on this computer except the automation. Okay? Each one of these computers have their own. Well, they're all computers, but this is just the monitor. Let's see what we got here. I want to answer the phone off air. I got to put it in audition. Notice I don't hear anything. Join that radio. Down. So I have to put it in audition. Okay? Put it back in programming so I can hear the. Go back to programming. You can close that since they're not there. All right. All right, welcome back to the show. It's Black Focus Radio. David Coleman in the house with 2 very talented interns. Now, when I get old and gray, I expect to hear from y'all. I'll say, yeah, I remember them 2 little yeah, you might be the president. You might be like, this great captain. You might be going to the, I don't know, going to Mars for the first time or something like that. You never know. I just want y'all to be famous, okay? Just remember the little old man with the great goatee when y'all get famous. Okay? 855-525-5683 is the number. Second hour of the show. I hope you enjoyed the first hour as well. We've been talking a lot about the reparations hearing that took place yesterday in Washington, D.C. Just quickly, more news out of Washington, D.C. Apparently a United States drone was shot down. United States is saying over international waters. Iran is saying, by the way, it was shot down by Iran. Iran is saying it was over Iran. We might be headed to war, folks. Let me tell you how insidious this is. Because Donald Trump, remember when he first came into office, he tore up the Iran agreement. Now he's begging them demanding that they abide by the agreement that he tore up. Number 1. Number 2, Israel hates Iran, and Israel is I should say fornicating a lot of this evidence to try to draw America back into war. Number 3, and the most insidious of the fact is that you understand that if we are at war, the president can't be impeached. And now, as of yesterday, 67% of the people in the House have decided that, hey, President Trump needs to be impeached. So why not start a war so that I can't be impeached. Now, I know what you're probably saying. Now, you know, Donald would never do that. He loves the country. You believe that? This man lies to you when he gets up. In fact, this man lies when he opens his mouth. Do you think he would? And by the way, this is the Republican Party. The last time that we went to war, that we are still fighting those wars, was when? Remember the Bush administration and Iraq? Remember that? Remember Condoleezza Rice? Remember those yahoos? Remember, I always say that Condoleezza Rice is a war criminal. She needs to be in prison. She certainly doesn't need to be on the college speaking circuit. So here we are again. The Republican, look, when Republicans are in office, you can go back and look. When Republicans are in office, they want to start a war. Because they try to fake patriotism, so they think, hey, start a war. That'll drum up patriotism. That'll keep us in office. But the irony is that none of them have ever been to war. Donald Trump got 5 deferments for bone spurs. None of them. Mitch McConnell, he didn't go to war. Lindsey Graham, he didn't go to war. John Bolton, who is running this the State Department, he didn't go to war. But they quick to send your little poor black white children and Latino children to war. See, here's the other thing that they do with war. You know, people use war as population control. So wait a minute. Think about it from this perspective. In Vietnam, more black people were killed per capita than any other race of people. Was that a form of population control? Let's kill off the black kids. Let's send them to war. Let's send them on the front lines. You better be careful. Y'all better pay attention, because I got a feeling over the next couple of weeks, this is going to get very, very dangerous. And even more so, I have a vested interest in that. My son's in the Navy. My son's in the Navy. I'm concerned. I don't trust a word Donald Trump says. Don't, can't, won't, never. In fact, I don't trust really the government, period. It was this government who had the Tuskegee experiment, who injected black men with syphilis. It was the Israeli government who secretly sterilized black women who were moving to Israel. Hello? I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. It was this government who championed Jim Crow. It was this government who made black soldiers sit in the back of the train or get off the train so that white German soldiers, the same German soldiers who were trying to kill Americans, so that they could sit comfortably while the black soldiers either walked by the train or had to ride in the back of the train in World War II. It was this country who lorded over lynchings and hangings and racial profiling and racial cleansing, and has yet to apologize. It is this country. So I don't believe a word that they say. You can get mad at me, I don't care. You can believe that this is the land of the free and the home of the brave. See, you all just now stopped standing up for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star Spangled Banner. I hadn't stood for those in a long time, bro. Not gonna do it. I stopped celebrating the 4th of July years ago. Not gonna do it. We just celebrated Juneteenth. How many of you all actually celebrated Juneteenth? Yesterday was the official day that black people were free in America. 2.5 years, hence the Emancipation Proclamation. In fact, I was seeing a lot of posts that were saying Juneteenth ought to be a national holiday. I totally agree. And and look, we don't need the government to determine that Juneteenth is a national holiday. Black people just need to say, hey, I'm off today. Tomorrow's Juneteenth, I'm taking off. That's what we ought to do. Why we got to wait for the white man to tell us when we're going to celebrate our holidays. And here's the other thing. Y'all will celebrate every other holiday but a black one. Won't you? St. Patrick's Day roll around, y'all run around in your green nut. And look, the only Irish you have in here is from your slave master. But you're wearing green. You're wearing green. Man, I gotta go get me some green. I want to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. You ain't Irish. Cinco de Mayo, although it's not an official Mexican holiday, which a lot of people don't realize. Man, I gotta go celebrate Cinco de Mayo. Hanukkah. The list goes on and on. All these holidays that you as black people celebrate, but you won't celebrate a holiday for yourself. Again, that's white supremacy, folks. If you won't do for yourself what you do for other people, then something is wrong with you. And the question has to be asked, what is it? And in this particular case, we celebrate every other holiday that we can think of. We even celebrate a holiday called Easter where a rabbit brings eggs. Not understanding that that holiday was actually a fertility holiday and was named after the African goddess Ishtar. Did y'all know that? That's what the eggs represent, is fertility. We'll celebrate everything else but our blackness. That's sick. That's sick. We're sick. We have something wrong in our heads that we won't shop at black businesses. We won't support black candidates. Because see, my argument with all this stuff with the Mitch McConnell and all these other cops, all this cop killing, I gave you 25 reasons you could be killed by the police. I gave you that, right? I'm looking at this article. Philadelphia Police Department has pulled 72 officers off of their regular duties as authorities investigate inflammatory social media posts revealed in a database that found thousands of offensive postings by current and former officers. The city's police commissioner said Wednesday. Hello? That's 72 officers. How many of those officers have beaten up a black suspect? How many of those officers have killed a black suspect or Hispanic or dark complected, melanated black, blessed black person? Because you're mad about you don't have melanin in there. How many? How many? Think about that. That's scary to think. That's why I said last week when this story first broke that has Little Rock did any research on their officers as it related to their social media post. Because based on the racism that's going on in this city, if some of them white cops ain't racist, then the Pope ain't Catholic. We know Charles Starks is. Anytime you shoot and kill a person without any regards for his life or anyone else in that car, that's racism, bro. You lynched him in broad daylight. You lynched him. But the Philadelphia Police Department is in shock. It says the research project tracking officers using the social media flagged offensive material posted about 2,900 current officers, some in supervisory roles, and post by hundreds of former officers across 8 police departments. Wow. After looking through the postings, Ross said some of the bigoted content will indeed compromise confidence in the city's police departments. So what they're saying basically is some of the stuff that they said are so bad that you can't get around it. That's what that article is saying. Is Little Rock part of that problem? Huh? 855-525-5683 is the number. Hats off to the people in Connecticut. Their state officials have decided that they were going to give inmates free phone rights. Because they making a mint off of your phone dollars when you got your cousin, your brother, your uncle, your sister, your mama, or somebody in jail and they calling you. Did you know that they're charging sometimes $15, $16 per minute? And that money is going to a private company. Did y'all know that? So hats off to Connecticut for doing that. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, I want to talk a little bit before we get into some other stuff about tipping. And I started to show off on it a little bit, but I want to get into more details, and I promised I would this hour. So there's a Texas restaurant. They defending a policy charging black students 15% gratuity, claims race had nothing to do with it. Yeah, it did. And I'll tell you why it did. I know it did. Because as a waiter, someone who worked in the restaurant business for a long time, when I saw black people coming in and they sat in my section, I winced. I'm being real with you. I'm going to tell you why here in just a moment. Okay? An Italian eatery in Texas is facing backlash after a recent black college graduate claims she was racially profiled in order to leave without speaking out against what she says is the restaurant's questionable automatic gratuity policy. Brittany Blakeney says she and her friends visited Locatella's restaurant on Cypress last Thursday to celebrate her recent graduation from Prairie View A&M University. All was well until Blakeney said a server informed the group he was tacking on a 15% gratuity to their bill. What happened next, Blakeney said, was simply she couldn't believe it. Basically, he said, black students from Prairie View don't tip. It is really shocking because I had never experienced anything like that. Blakeney said she reported the incident to the manager, who only defended the server and then booted her from the restaurant. It was definitely embarrassing because she even threatened to call the police. Nobody was belligerent. Nobody was loud, cursing at her or anything. Carrie Salazar, the general manager of Locatella's, told KPRC the incident wasn't about race, but about out of concern that Blakeney and her friends wouldn't tip. It is very frustrating for servers because that's the way they make their income. She insisted the server had the right. No, he doesn't. The server had the right to add 15% gratuity to a party of 6, although she acknowledged the policy isn't always enforced. Salazar said Blakeney insulted her while voicing her concerns over the matter and began using foul language in front of other patrons. I just realized that the situation wasn't going to get diffused unless I asked her to simply leave. Okay? IRS rule says automatic gratuities are service charges that the restaurant is entitled to keep, some or all, unlike tips. Any distribution of this restaurant income to employees is considered wages paid for tax purposes. Okay, so let me break this down for you real fast. Number one, a restaurant cannot charge you an automatic tip. No matter where you go, I don't care if you have a table of 50. That restaurant cannot charge you automatic. Let me tell you a story. I waited tables at some posh restaurants, one of which was Captain Bilbo's in Memphis. I was one of 2 black waiters. One night I had the honor of a 15 top. Let me say this again, a 15 top. No, I'm sorry, it was a 19 top. You know who the guest was? It was Al Jarreau. Now, you all young people don't know who Al Jarreau is or was. He's passed away now, he just passed. But he was one of the top jazz vocalists in the business. Okay? He came to he was doing a concert at Mud Island in Memphis. He came to Captain Bilbo's to eat. I was their server. 19 people. Al Jarreau said, "Hey Dave," after I gave my little spiel He said, well, what's the best thing on the menu? I said, it's the Boston casserole. He says, okay, I'll take it. And you know what he said? If it's not good, it's going to affect your tip. And everybody around the table laughed. And you know what else? Of the 19 people that ordered that night, 15 of them ordered, guess what? The Boston casserole. Okay? Boston casserole comes out. The guys who didn't order it, the people that were in the band, because this was Al Jarreau and his band, they ended up saying, man, I wish I would have ordered the Boston casserole. Can I get one? Sure, we ordered another one. At the end of the night, my tip wasn't 15%. My tip was almost 35% from that table. Now, let me just tell you that the Boston casserole was one of the most expensive meals on the menu. Now, one of the guys even said, oh, you just saying the Boston casserole because it's one of the most expensive. I said, well, no, if I really wanted you to do the most expensive, I would have told you to order crab legs. Okay? They all laughed. I had to wait with people. So they ended up leaving me a 35% tip. Because number one, they always had their drinks. They got their food. They got a meal that they had never eaten and they loved it. In other words, their waiter took care of them. They tipped me 35%. Okay? They didn't have to do that. Remember at the beginning they said if this dish isn't good, it's going to affect your tip. 35%. I ended up walking out of there that night with I only worked for 3 hours and I probably left with close to $800 in tips that night. I know how to wait tables. Trust me. I'm a bad boy. But the bottom line I'm telling you is that we could not automatically add 15%. Now, when they book the parties, what the party booker would, do you mind if we add 15% on the bill? Usually if it's a corporate party, the corporation who's paying for it, they'll automatically add 15%. But a lot of times people would book parties and there would be individuals who would just come in and sit at a 10 top. So it might be five couples, and each one of those couples are paying for their meal. We can't automatically add 15% to that bill. That's illegal. So that restaurant does not have the right to do that. That is illegal. If you ever go into a restaurant and they say, well, we're going to charge you 15% gratuity, because here's the other problem what happens when many waiters get an automatic gratuity. You get bad service. They don't care if your food comes out on time, because the tip is a gratuity to make sure that you are, as the patron, being taken care of. So if that food is late, then that waiter needs to be back in that kitchen raising hell with those cooks. That waiter needs to be back out at that table saying, hey, I'm apologizing. The food is late. It's not my fault, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that food gets out on time. In fact, I'm going to go tell the manager, so the manager will come over and talk to you and let you know that your food is late because of what's going on in the kitchen, not because of me. Because I earn my money on that table. I only make $2.01 an hour. So any money that I earn is on that table. So I got to make sure that it is flowing properly. I told you all last week that I would even tip the dishwashers. Because quite often I would go back, because most of them were black. Many of the places that I worked in as waiters, the waiters were white. I was the only black waiter in a lot of cases. So when they'd see me, they would think automatically, oh, well, he just one of them bougie Negroes. But I'd go back and talk to him. Man, you see the game last night? Yeah. Someone would come up to me and say, hey, man, my child's sick. Can I borrow $20 till next week? Sure. Here you go. So whenever I went in the kitchen and needed something from a dishwasher, I'd say, hey, man, I need a crab fork. We'd be so busy, we'd be out of crab forks. They'd all be dirty. I'd say, hey, man, can I get a couple of crab forks? In fact, when I'd walk through the door and head in that direction, they'd say, Mr. Dave, what you need? White waiter walk back there, they still washing dishes. And they'd get mad because they say, well, how is it that you They treat you better. They just treat you good because you black and they black. No, brother, that's not what they do. They do it because they know when I walk through that door, if they take care of me, I'm going to take care of them. Okay? So it was important for me to understand the dynamics of how a restaurant worked. That's how waiters should work. But most of the time when you go to these places who do the automatic gratuities, in fact, we went out to Yaya's a couple of years ago. I've never been back. We had a table of about 14 people. We got the worst service that I've ever had in the history of me going out, and I'm not exaggerating. And they added a 15% gratuity. You know, the kids were supposed to get ice cream at the end of the meal. Yeah, they got ice cream, but by the time they got their ice cream, it was melted. So I approached the manager and I said, let me tell you something, man. I said, I don't mean to be rude. I said, I've been in this business a long time. I've been from the back of the house to the front of the house. I know this business. I said, when you start allowing service to give automatic gratuities, then you're going to get poor service. And I said, I'm not paying this 15%. I said, I'm going to pay for my meal, but I said the service was bad, and I would advise, and I advised everybody at the table, do not pay 15%. We couldn't get waters filled. Okay? We couldn't get waters filled. It was that bad. Okay? So the manager couldn't make me pay that 15%. Here's the cost of the meal. The 15% is a gratuity. That means that, hey, you've done a good job. Here's an extra 15% that goes in your pocket. That's what a gratuity is. A restaurant does not have the right to attach a gratuity to your bill unless you'd agreed upon it. I don't care if it's even on the menu. I see this all the time, we reserve the right to attach 15% gratuity on any table 6 or higher. No, you don't. You can reserve all the rights you want. But if you give me bad service, you're not getting 15%. You don't deserve it. And quite often what happens is that when these guys are out here waiting tables, they know, yeah, I want a 6-top because I don't have to really do no work. They outside smoking, doing whatever they want. So that's the restaurant side of it. I understand what waiters go through because, like I said, I've been through that war. When I waited tables at Houston's in Memphis, every year the Kojic Convention, Church of God in Christ, I hated to see them little black women coming. I'm not going to lie. Them little black women were giving me pennies. That's an insult to me. In fact, I gave a handful of pennies back to a young lady, an older lady. I said, ma'am, I don't really need those pennies. You probably need them more than I do. And there were times when I left stacks of pennies on the table. And my manager would come out and say, Dave, you don't want those pennies? Nope. They can't do nothing for me. And he'd rake them off, put them in his hand, he'd put them in the cash drawer. And it got to a point where he would stop even taking them. So what I'm saying is that black people don't tip. But see, here's the other thing. Waiters and waitresses have to be careful because guess what? I've been in the business. So if I go out and eat, which I do go out and eat an awful lot, what are the odds that I'm going to give you 15%? Pretty high, right? I've been in the business. So if you stereotype me when I walk through the door saying that, oh, he's black, I'm not going to tip, then guess what? You're going to end up in trouble. Because not only am I not going to tip you, but I'm gonna chastise you in front of your manager. Okay? I'm gonna let them know the sorry service that you gave me. I'm just letting you know. A tip is something you earn. It's not something that is given to you just because you waiting tables and you bring me a Coca-Cola. I'm just letting waiters, if you're out there waiting tables, you need to be humping. In other words, when my water is out, you ought to be filling up my water. Or you ought to be asking, hey, sir, you need another glass of water? Or when my shot of tequila is gone, you ought to be... The worst. Because they run you to death. They want straws. They want lemons. They want everything. Jemiah laughing. You've been there, huh? You've seen that, right? And then, particularly if you are of their age, the first thing they're going to do is flirt with you. You don't do that, do you, Jemiah? Okay. Because you know why they flirt with you? Because they think you're going to give them the hookup. You're going to give them something free. I'm just being real. So when I was waiting tables, I didn't like waiting on black women. And if I had to, most of the time, what I would end up doing is going ahead and loading up on straws, loading up on everything that they need so they wouldn't even ask. Okay? That's what I needed. That's what I did. That's what I did. So it was tough waiting on them. But I would kill them with and then, I would try to educate them. I'd tell them, look, oh, you a good waiter. We're going to give you a good tip. And I'd stop and say, well, what do you think is a good tip? And I said, we'll give you $2. I said, what? Your bill was $40. You gonna give me $2? Isn't that good enough? No. And I just quietly say, now if you really want to take care of your waiter, you ought to give them at least 15%. And I just walk away. Because you're not supposed to solicit tips in restaurants. Some of them would do it, some of them wouldn't. But what I'm saying to you black people, that if you're going out, as I said earlier, that what you don't realize is that these restaurants use tips as a means to pay their employees. That's why that IRS rule that I read was important. It says automatic gratuities are service charges that the restaurant is entitled to keep some. So if you're paying an automatic, see, here's why restaurants like those automatic gratuities, because they can keep some of it. See, if you got $100 bill and you give me $20 on the table, that's my tip. That goes into my pocket. The restaurant can't keep any of that. But if you give me a gratuity that's on the bill, the restaurant can keep some of that. So yeah, we want to charge 15% automatic gratuities because we can use that money to help pay some of that salary. And I say all that to say this. Folks, if you're going to go out, make sure you're going to pay 15%. Okay? Just make sure you got 15% that you're going to pay. Extra. Now, that doesn't mean if they give you bad service that they automatically get 15%. If you got to ask for water 3 or 4 times, if your food is cold, no. Now, also remember that the waiter has nothing to do with you having cold food. That's coming from the kitchen. But if you got to continually ask for water, little things that you ought to have, then yeah, at that point, I think you ought to at least not tip. You ought to leave something. But I wanted to touch on that one more time because this story came and the young lady is upset. Look, I've waited on college students. Y'all some broke folks. So don't pretend like you were going to tip right. And you done been in that restaurant. Part of the reason those people in that restaurant are cross-eyed at you. And I gotta err on the side of the restaurant manager. It really isn't about race. Unfortunately, it's black people who don't tip properly. I'm being real with you. I'm telling you from someone who's been in that business, who raised children in that business. Okay? Black people don't tip. So what the restaurant owner was doing was defending her server. Because look, you done spent 3 hours on a table. Money you could have been making elsewhere. And they only leave you $2 on a $200 bill. Come on, man. There's nothing right about that. So if you're going out, you need to understand, first of all, here's how you can figure out how much money. It's easy today. Back in the day when we were going out, we used to have to we would call the restaurant and say, what are your average meals? What are your prices? Now all you got to do is get online. Go to the restaurant, look at the menu. Here's the key. if there are no prices on that menu and you know you're on a budget, that's probably not a place you need to go. Okay? If you go to their website and they got their menu out there and they got all these fancy steaks and seafood and these casserole dishes, but there's no price on the menu, then you probably don't need to go to that place. I'm just real. Okay? But other places do have prices on their menus. Most places do. So all you got to do is jump online and go to that restaurant where you want to go to and look at the price. Look at the pricing. And when you look at the price, you see how much your budget is. So if you know on average meals are $14, you might have a drink. So let's say $16, you and your girl, that's $32. You add in some dessert, that's $35. So you want to do 15% of that. 10% is $3.50. It's easy to do. 10% is $3.50. Another $1.25. That's $4.75. That's 15% of $35. Easy. And it's even easier today because all you got to do is take your phone out, punch it in your calculator, and get the 15%. Now, if you really want to do a good job, you give them 20% if they took care of it. So there's no excuse anymore, folks. If you can go out and spend $100, $200, $300, $400 on fake hair, then you can certainly add 15%. Hello? Don't get mad at me. I'm trying to educate you. Because this is part of the reason you get treated so bad when you go to these white restaurants. Because there's been a stereotype out there, and to some extent it's true. You know, stereotypes sometimes are based on truths. And I know from experience, spending a lot of time in the restaurant business, that black folks don't tip. Just like you don't support black businesses. Just like you don't support black candidates. Just like you don't donate or adopt black kids. So don't get mad when people points out your stereotype. When that stereotype that you adhere to comes back to bite you in the butt. Because it will. It often does. Exactly. Fahim just said, I'm a big tipper for great service. I agree with you. That's the whole point. If you give great service, then yeah, you should be a bigger tipper. I agree. Nothing wrong with that. If you get great service from me, yeah, I'm gonna hook you up, dog. I'm gonna hook you up. But the problem is there are many people, these students, hell, we all been in college. How broke were you when you were in college? I was broke, man. Look, all through high school, I worked on a job. I was broker in college than I was in high school. Because I was on scholarship, I couldn't work. I played football. I was always at practice 3 times a day. So college students are broke anyway. They hustling anyway. So when you're going out to a restaurant like a Locatella's, which sounds like it's a pretty nice place, and you've probably been there before, some of your friends or your previous people, alums, have been there before and have left bad tips, it leaves a bad taste in a person's mouth. Oh Lord, here come them prayer review people. I don't want them in my section. I'm telling you how they talk, and I'm saying black waiters say the same thing. It got to the point I didn't want them Kojic women in my section. Coming in with all them fancy hats and fur coats, them mink stoves wrapped around their necks. They order barbecue ribs, which was one of the most expensive things on the menu. And then they leave you 25 cents in pennies. Get out of here. Yeah, I'm going to talk about you. And if you all some of them Kojic folk, when y'all go to Memphis for your convocation this week or this summer, make sure you're tipping. Don't get mad at me. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. In fact, Kojic week, I tried to take off work. I wasn't going to be there, dog. And then one of them tried to get upset because I was the only black waiter. Sir, are you the only black waiter here? Yes, I am. Well, we need to do something about that. No, you don't. And I started to say, well, the first thing you need to do is learn how to tip. So that day, that guy actually went to the manager and tried to make a stink out of the fact that they come in there and spend so much money every year. And they're upset that there's only one black waiter in there, which was me. You didn't do me no favors. You could have kept your mouth shut and just simply tipped me. I'd have been happy. 855-525-5683. Now, I hope we won't have this tipping conversation again. I don't want to see any more posts about people not tipping, black people not tipping. Okay? What I would have loved that young lady to say is, hey, I don't know why she was upset. They got 15%. But she mad because she automatically billed them. And again, restaurants can't do that. 855-525-5683 is the number. Tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up with something special that has happened with When You See Us. Okay? And it certainly surprised me when I saw it, but it's a good thing. And we're talking about the When You See Us that is currently on Netflix, that is breaking all kinds of viewership records. And if you haven't seen it, I know why some of y'all won't see it. It's a tough watch. But you need to see it. Just like when we pull up those pictures of people who have been hanged and maimed, it's a tough watch. When I come back, I'm going to tell you the story of a young man that I took to the Civil Rights Museum in Memphis. And when he saw the picture of a young black man being hung and set afire, how he cried like a baby. Back in a moment. You're listening to Black Focus Radio. I'm Dynamic Dave on joynetradio.com. So you all see all the prep I do? You think you can sit there and talk for 2 hours? You've been on the phone for 2 hours, haven't you? So this is, typically you have calls, which helps. Sometimes you have guests. But see, the way I was trained, you have to train to be able to do a show when you have no callers and when you have no guests. Okay? So that's why you hear me, all this material that I use, I'll go home this evening and start looking at material. What do I want to talk about tomorrow on the show? Or do I want to follow up with some things that I talked about the other day? You know, because like I said, I've talked about tipping before on this show. But because the article comes up again, another article comes up, I thought it would be appropriate to go ahead and talk about it again. But it takes a lot of work. A lot of work.
Office address is 415 North McKinley, Suite 710 in Little Rock. I'm attorney Peter Thompson, and I want to provide you with the best legal representation.
I'm so glad I found the Kick Above. It's like my very own personal training studio. A Kick Above removes guesswork and intimidation and offers me a very
They got stuck.
and structured
Okay.
environment specific to my personal goals. Kim Levitt
Let me see if I have.
and
Okay.
personal trainers even offer nutritional guidelines for my personal.
So while I'm out there getting those out, come up, Clay.
Call 501-868-8850 or go to akickabove.com. Now, what am I wearing tonight? Thanks to a Kick Above.
You have 60 seconds. If I'm not back before this stops at 2 ends, you need to click that button right there. Okay?
At Mitchell Funeral Home, they understand that the funeral is a celebration of life and legacy. So the entire staff takes great pride in the caring, personal, and professional services they provide. Cremation, funeral planning, burial policy, life insurance, notary, and monument sales are just a few of the services they offer. Flexible packages are available as well. Mitchell Funeral Home appreciates the trust and confidence placed in them and will continue to enhance their services so as to serve you better. Call now. Get connected. 870-246-2611. That's 870-246-2611. Call, click, or come by. MitchellFuneralServices.com. Don't wait till we're needed. Call us now. Let's walk through this together. 870-246-2611. It's quality you can appreciate and service you can depend on at Mitchell Funeral Home.
The law offices of James F. Swindoll provides our clients the personal care and attention that larger law firms cannot offer. Our experienced attorneys have brought hundreds of cases to verdict in state and federal court and recovered millions for our clients. If you or a loved one have been injured or have property wrongfully damaged, we may be able to help. Do not hesitate to contact our firm anytime for a free attorney consultation. Call 1-800-848-1290. That's 1-800-848-1290. Or email inquiries at arkansas-personal-injury.com. Our law offices are centrally located at 212 Center Street in Little Rock. That's the law offices of James F. Swindoll, personal injury and products liability attorney serving Arkansas since 1977.
All right, welcome back to the show. Black Focus Radio, we're about to wrap up the show. Just quickly, I want to give you a couple of points here. Ava DuVernay, her series When They See Us is currently the most watched show on YouTube. On Netflix. Okay. When They See Us, the series about the wrongful arrests and convictions of 5 black teenage boys in New York City, known as the Central Park 5 case, has been one of the most discussed TV programs as of late. In fact, it has been confirmed that the Netflix show chronicling the 20-year-old event has been the most watched series on the streaming platform since its premiere. In other words, When They See Us is the most watched show since Netflix came into being. Netflix recently took to Twitter to announce the news, with DuVernay, the series' visionary, creator, and director, reacting with one word. She faints. Okay? So, before I left, one of the things that I told you is that you ought to make sure that your children watch this show. Have y'all seen it yet? Have you seen it yet? No, you got to watch it. You need to. You need to. Because, let me tell you a story. So while I was in Nashville, I had an organization called Project C. It meant support, education, and empowerment. And it was in one of the worst housing developments. And I've told you some stories about this place. It was one of the worst housing developments in Nashville at the time, called Cumberland View. They called it Dodge City. Now, if you understand the implications of Dodge City was one of the worst western towns in America. That's where you went to die, literally. People were dying every day. Dodge City. In fact, we had young people dying. We even had a young boy shotgunned on our steps. So one of the things that I did, I wanted to take these kids out of the project, so we brought them to Memphis one year. And that year we had A Slave Ship Speaks, which was about the slave ship that was found off the coast of Florida. And we went to the Civil Rights Museum. This is when the Civil Rights Museum was first opened. Okay? Now, I've told you about the effect of A Slave Ship Speaks and how it made us cry like babies. It did. They had it set up like it was a real slave ship, and we went down into the bowels of the slave ship, and they had piped in sounds, moans of people who were, they were slaves. And it was so hauntingly real that it rocked us. It was about 40 of us. It's about 5 adults and 40 kids, 35 kids. We cried like babies. So then we left there, and on the way down, the bus was loud, it was active. But as we drove from A Slave Ship Speaks to the Civil Rights Museum, the place where Dr. King was killed, after we had come out of the bowels of that slave ship, it was very quiet. It was quiet. We get to the Civil Rights Museum, and we go through the little film presentation that they give us, and then you get to walk through the museum. And one of the pictures, and you've all seen it, is of a black man being hung, and he's set afire, and people are standing around him laughing, white people. It's a disturbing picture. So when you walk around the Civil Rights Museum, on the wall there are panels, and those panels are pictures. And those pictures are giving us information about what took place during that time period. Disturbing. They were thrilled in me because I had told them about Little Rock Central, and it was my school, and Little Rock Central was actually in the museum. Okay? So as we went from panel to panel, we get to the picture of the guy hanging, and then we go to the other panels, and we keep moving along, and we're about 10 panels down when we look back, and I'll just call him John. John was stuck on that panel, that first panel about the guy who was hung and was set afire, and people were laughing. And one of the things that I had told them is I said, you all don't really understand what your ancestors went through so you can be free today. What you all don't know was John was the oldest one there. He was 17. Our young, he was 17 years old. He was the oldest one in the group. John was 17 and in the 9th grade. Because John was in and out of school. John was skipping school. His parents would not make him go to school, so they would flunk him. So when John stopped at that panel, we looked back and tears was rolling down John's eye. And actually, we didn't look back. One of my students that was with me, her name was Monica. She said, Mr. David. She was pulling on my arm. And Monica was about 10 years old, 12 years old. She said, Mr. David, look. And I turned and I looked. She said, look at John. And I looked at John and I could see the tears rolling down John's face. So we all decided to go back to where John was. And I put my arm around John and I said, hey man, are you okay? And he looked at me and he told me through tears, he said, Mr. David, he said, it's something about this picture. He said, I would not be in the position that I'm in today if someone would have simply told me the truth. I said, told you the truth about what, John? He said, told me the truth about what my people really went through. He said, I had no idea that my people had to go through that just so I could go to school. And we all huddled and we all cried some more. A couple of years later, we found out that John had been killed. And we cried again. So I tell you that story because had someone told John about his history and his culture, John may not have been a gangbanger. John may have decided that he wanted to get an education in the halls of a school as opposed to on the streets. But because no one told John, John didn't know. So that's why I'm telling you, you have to watch it, Clayton. You have to see, we know what they do to us, but you have to see the depths of where they will go to do to us. Because if you don't understand, this is why I tell you all, You heard me say since you've been here, I don't believe in turning the other cheek, because all they'll do is slap the other one. Joe Biden, the vice president of the United States, who was a Democrat, said yes just the other day that he's okay. He missed the days of working with segregationists. Why would you miss the days of working with segregationists and you're a Democrat and you're trying to get the black vote? Why would you do that? That's why you need to know who they are. Because anyone who will work with a segregationist will not get my vote. If Joe Biden was going to get my vote, he's not going to get it now. Certainly not in the primaries. So we have to know what they did to us. We have to be able to teach our children. When I went to the thing over at Mosaic Templars about the massacre up in Elaine, Arkansas, there were people out, person after person, getting up, making statements saying, why didn't they teach this to us in school? Why would a white school teach you black history? You got to learn it for yourself. You understand that, right? And when there are things available for us to learn, we must watch it. We have to. Yo, you're going to get mad. You're going to get pissed off. But you need to know what they did to us. And you need to understand that the same things that they did to us then, they are doing to us now. And you cannot get complacent and think just because you can walk in a mall, just because you can buy a car, just because you can go in the same bathroom that they go in, just because you can date their women, that you're equal. Because if you remember some of the black facts that I've talked about, especially yesterday, what was the common denominator when I talked about all of those heinous acts that they did to black people? A white woman got them in trouble. Yep. That's what happened. But anyway, we got to get out of here. I hope you all enjoyed the show. You know, we do this thing every day, Monday through Friday, 12 to 2 p.m. Someone said, Dave, your show needs to be longer. Oh, the hell it does. I got a life to lead, okay? But I certainly enjoy dropping knowledge every day, and I hope you all enjoy it as well. And y'all got to start telling people about it. Start telling your friends. Start telling your moms, your dads. Tell your preachers. Tell your preacher, hey, man, you need to listen to Black Focus. That brother will learn you a thing or two. It'll help your sermon. Because your sermons have been kind of weak lately. You're repeating yourself. Deacons used to say that back in the day. Reverend, that sermon's kind of weak this time around. Didn't you preach that last month? Man, you need to get on the job. We got to go. Remember, the ultimate measure of a man or a woman is not where they stand in moments of comfort and convenience, but in times of challenge. This, my brothers and sisters, is our time of challenge. Where do you stand? Y'all have a great day.
Black Focus.
Okay.
Where we discuss our
Let's quickly
issues,
edit this
our solutions,
spot over here.
and
So make sure,
join us every
once we end the show, we got to make sure everything is done
on Join
before we. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go back to automation. Okay? See the auto button up here? I know it's in automation when it turns green. Okay?
You got it. The Joy Network.
So now it's in automation. We're good to go. Okay? Now I want to make sure I'm stopping all my recordings. Y'all have a good day.
If I ever took a loss, I learned a lesson.
Stop that one.